1 is clear to all of you. Now rule number 2 says that when there are pronouns, right? And in one pronoun sentence, we are talking about different persons, right? We have discussed about the first person, second person and the third person, right? So if in one sentence itself, we are using the first person also, second person also, as well as the third person also, there is a specific order in which we have to use. Now suppose if you are talking about something good, right? So a good news whenever it is there, or a pleasant news if it is there, then the order will be first you will tell to the second person's name, then you will say third person's name, and in the end you should say the first person's name. So that is the second, third and first will be in the like negative situations or something bad when it is happening. Sorry, good when it is happening. It's something positive or something good if it is there, then it will be second, third or first person. So I repeat, in one sentence itself, when you have first, second and third persons together, and there are two types of situations. Suppose if you have something good or something bad. So if something good is there or something bad is there, then what you will do, right? So if some good news is there or a pleasant news is there, the order will be second, third and first person. In case if something unpleasant is there, that means some bad news is there, at that time, first the first person's name will come, then the second person and then the third person's name. See, for example, you say you, she and I. So you is the second person, she is the third person, I is the first person. So when the first person comes in the end, it has to be the good news, right? So see whether this good news is there or not, have been commended for the success of the process. So that means we have been commended for the success. So it's something, a positive news is there. So this order of second, third and first is perfectly fine. Now look at the next example. It says I is the first person, you second and she is the third person. So it's first, second and third order. That means it should be the something bad, some negative situation has to be there. So have been held responsible for the failure of the project. So it's talking about the failure. So some kind of a negative situation is there. So in that, if you have first, second and third, that is fine. But if it is a good situation, then the first person will come towards the end. Clear? The point of this page is, or this slide is, when we have first, second and third persons, we are talking about, we are referring to all three in one sentence itself. If the situation is something positive, in that case, the order will be second, third and first person. In case if the sentence may you are having something negative, then the order in which you mention the persons will be first person, second person and then the third person. Fine, let's move ahead to the next slide. Now when you're comparing the pronouns, so the comparison should always be between the like items. You cannot compare the unlike items. So you can compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. You can compare apples to apples. You cannot compare apples to bananas, right? Apples to apples. Remember, plural to plural, singular to singular. Apple to apple, oranges to oranges, crocodile to crocodiles, like that. So same way when you're doing the comparisons in terms of the pronouns, the case of the pronouns being compared should be same. What are the cases which we have discussed? We have the subject case, subject to subject, right? You can compare a subject pronoun to a subject pronoun. You can compare a object pronoun to the object pronoun. You cannot compare a subject to object or an object to subject. It should be always subject to subject, object to object. So which means either both should be in the nominative pronouns or both should be the objective pronouns. See the example. She is as intelligent as him. She is the subject pronoun, right? So we talk about the subject. So it's a subject pronoun. Now as and as is used for the comparison. So you're comparing the intelligence of one girl, she, with another boy, him. So him is the object pronoun. So this is the error over here. We cannot use an object pronoun over here. This is wrong. So you have to put like this. She is as intelligent as he. Subject to subject, object to object comparison has to be there. Right? She is the subject pronoun, him is the object pronoun. So how can you compare a subject pronoun to the object pronoun? This is incorrect. The correct comparison will be she to he. She is the subject pronoun, he is also the subject pronoun. Clear? Let's move ahead to the next slide now. Now, if the sentence begins with the subject followed by any form of the to be form of the verb like am, is, are, was, were, then the pronoun should be in the nominative case. So which means if you have a sentence starting with it and after that you can have any form of to be or to have. Immediately after that you should have the subject pronoun. Say for example, it is the sentence starting with it, was is the to be form of the verb. So after that, them is the object pronoun. This is the error over here. So it was them, it is wrong because them has to be subject over here. It is not the subject over here. Who was it? It was they. The correct option will be they over here. You cannot write them because I told you the rule. You will have the sentence starting with it. Then any form of to be or to have is there. Then after them, the subject pronoun should be there. See the next example. It was us who organized the whole party. So sentence is starting with this. It is having a verb as was. Then who was it? It was we. Us is the again object pronoun. So if this us is in the form of the object pronoun, it is wrong. Us cannot be the subject. It is the object pronoun. So us is wrong. The correct pronoun we need is over here is we. Now I'll tell you some examples of forms of to be. Forms of to be is, if you talk about singular, plural, both we'll see. Okay? So this will help you in the subject verb agreement later on also. Is singular, are is plural. Right? Was is singular, were is plural. This is in the present tense. This is in the past tense. Then we have forms of to have. Has is singular, have is plural. Had is singular, plural, both same. And am is something which we use always with I. Okay? So this is any of this is there. In that case, sentence starting with it. Then if you have the forms of to be or to have, then immediately after that the subject pronoun should be there. Let's move ahead to the next slide. Now reflexive pronouns. Reflexive means reflection should be there. When the subject is equal to object, when the subject and the object of the sentence are same, then referring to the same person or a thing, right? Then it will be the reflexive pronouns. When the subject and the object refers to the same person or a thing, then it is called as the reflexive or the reflexive pronouns. Now the examples of this is the pronouns which are ending with self or selves, right? He accidentally cut himself while he was chopping the vegetables. So cut is the verb. Who cut himself? He. He is the subject. He cut whom? Himself. So he and himself both are same. We are not talking about two different people over here. So subject and the object are same. So the himself is a reflexive pronoun over here. Next sentence. She bought a present for herself. Bought is a verb. Who bought a present for herself? She. She is the subject pronoun. She bought a present for whom? For herself. This is the object. Now subject and the object are referring to the same person. That's why it's a reflexive pronoun. They injured themselves during the rugby match. So injured is the verb. So who injured themselves? They. They is the subject pronoun. They injured whom? They injured themselves. So themselves is the object. So here you see they and themselves. They are referring to the same people. I enjoyed myself as the movie. Enjoyed is the verb. Who enjoyed myself? So I. I is the subject. I enjoyed whom? I enjoyed myself. So myself and I both are referring to same person. So it's a reflexive pronoun. The dog scratched itself. Scratching is scratching itself. So is scratching is the verb. Who is scratching itself? Dog. Dog is the subject. Dog is scratching whom? Itself. Itself is the object. So here you see subject is equal to the object. They both refer to the same person or a thing. Then they are called as the reflexive pronouns. Let's move ahead to the next slide. Now emphasis. Like now if you want to have the empathetic pronoun, the same pronouns which are ending with self or selves. Now if these pronouns are used to stress on the doer of the action, then they are called as the emphatic pronouns. Now the author signed the book for me herself. That means nobody else but the author herself has signed the book. I did it myself. So who did it? I myself. Myself is putting the stress on the doer of the action. It is putting the stress on doer of the action. Right? He dressed himself. He has not dressed anybody. He dressed himself. Right? So this is the subject pronoun. This is the object pronoun. Dressed is the verb. It's a reflexive pronoun. The students are old enough to read the books themselves. Right? So here also again it is the reflexive pronoun. Now examples of the reflexive. I wish the children would behave themselves. Who would behave? The children. Children will behave what? Themselves. So they are subject and the object are same over here. So we call them as the reflexive pronouns. He busied himself in the kitchen. He is the subject, busied is the verb, object is himself. It's a reflexive pronoun. Would you like to help yourself? So who would like to help? You. You is the subject. Whom? Yourself is the object. I saw myself. So saw is the verb. Who saw? I saw. Subject. I saw whom? Myself. It's the object. Subject and the object are same. Now we can use the reflexive pronouns after the verbs like amuse, avail, blame, cut, dry, enjoy, hurt, introduce, kill, adapt, absent, reconcile and enjoy. Now we cannot use the reflexive pronouns after the verbs which describe things people usually do for themselves like wash, saves, dress, hide. This is something they're doing it usually for themselves. So it's better to remove that pronoun from there. It's not necessary to put over there. See, like he washed himself in the cold water. This is something which usually people will do. So this himself is not needed over here. It should be just he washed in the cold water. He always shaved himself before going out in the evening. So this is something a normal activity. We don't need a himself over here. Michel dressed himself. So it's normal, right? It's normal activity. Michel will always dress himself only. So we will remove this himself from here. Fine. Let's move ahead to the next slide.
You can learn any subject, anywhere, any place and on the go. Come, let us go the other way in learning. Download our revolutionary app for free ANC.